We're joined now by Corey Lewandowski, who managed Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. Corey, thanks a lot for coming on.
My pleasure.
So what do you make of this?
Look, I think exactly what the president's statement said is, look, two things are important. One, I think the removal of James Comey is important because I hope what happens now is that any investigation which takes place, and I don't think there's anything there to look at, but any investigation that takes place does not take place on the front page of the newspaper every day. I think what we have seen, unfortunately, was Director Comey had an agenda which was to inform the public of everything that he was doing on a regular basis, and that is not helpful if you're actually trying to conduct an investigation. I think what you have now is the Senate moving forward with someone who has credibility, but at the end of the day, there is nothing there. Look, I can tell you firsthand, because I was on the campaign for a long time, never, ever, ever did I ever see anybody have contact with any agent of any foreign government, Russia, or anybody else. I've never seen the president, or at that time candidate Trump, direct anybody to have conversations with anybody from a foreign government or foreign agency whatsoever. It never took place that I'm aware of. Let me be clear, though. If somebody from the campaign had something to do with impacting the election, that person should be held accountable. But it sure did not come from the president or any of the people that I'm associated with.
Was the president aware that the acting attorney general was going to appoint Mueller a special counsel?
Look, I don't know the internal workings of how the White House and what the decision process was from the acting attorney general and how that was moving forward. I don't know. I know the president's had a very full schedule. He traveled today. He gave a commencement speech to the Coast Guard, and I think that was probably his focus. And look, I think what the president is doing is he's putting people in the Justice Department who are unquestionably qualified to be in the positions that they have, both the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General, the Assistant Attorney General. They have unquestionable credentials, and he's left them the ability to do their jobs.
Short term, this seems like good news for the administration because it depoliticizes this question to some degree. I think Mueller is widely recognized as a man of integrity and not a political figure. Long term, it's got to be terrifying, though, because previous special counsel investigations have gone into places that no one anticipated, and they've tied up entire presidential terms. We just saw that with two recent presidents. Is the president concerned about that, and the people around him concerned about that?
The president has no reason to be concerned.
Right.
And Tucker, it's amazing. Unfortunately, the way the system works sometimes, and particularly in the mainstream media, they want to prove you guilty before you've actually had anything, and that's what the mainstream media has tried to do to this president, is accuse him of things that there's been no evidence of whatsoever. At least what we have now is the opportunity to have a clean slate and show that nothing took place here. And I think that's what the president ultimately wants. He has said time and again, nothing took place, and this is the opportunity to prove that nothing took place.
Will he be commenting on this investigation as it unfolds, do you think?
Look, I don't know, but I think the president is his best messenger. And at the end of the day, whether it is his surrogates or it is him directly, I think he will go directly to the American people and have a conversation with them about what's taking place in the country. And when the president does that, he's at his very best.
Except when there are potential legal ramifications based on what he tweets, for example. And so if you get crosswise with an investigation like this publicly, that seems like it could be potentially a real problem, no? I mean, if you were advising his communication strategy, would you say, go ahead and tweet your feelings about Robert Mueller for the next year, or not?
No, I don't think so. And I think the difference here is that, Mr. Mueller has unquestionable character right now. And if he runs an investigation, which is done in the privacy that it should be, so that he can do his job appropriately to come up with the findings, which we all know to be true, which was there was no collusion in any way, shape, or form, then that's what the president, I'm sure, wants to have done. Now, I don't speak for the president, but I'm sure what he wants to be able to do is to have an investigation which is completed, hopefully quickly, to show that there was no collusion in any way, shape, or form between Trump, the Trump campaign, and any foreign government. That's what he wants. And I think that investigation should be done not on the front pages of the Wall Street Journal and New York Times and the fake media and on the, the mainstream television shows. It should be done in private. It should be handled appropriately. And I think this investigation is going to go that way.
I covered the many investigations into the Clinton administration here in Washington, and I know a lot of the Clinton people still, because I see them around. And I'm totally convinced that Hillary Clinton, had she become president, would never have allowed an independent counsel investigation of her behavior because she would be too afraid of what might happen. With that in mind, do you think it was wise that the president allowed this to happen? Do you think he could have stopped it?
I don't think he wants to stop it. Look, I think the president wants to clear his name once and for all because he has been so sullied by the media with these false accusations that there is some type of connection between him and Russia. Just last week, he sent a letter to Senator Lindsey Graham outlining that he has no business interest in Russia whatsoever. He's disclosed in his personal financial disclosure statement he has no business interest in Russia whatsoever, but the mainstream media continues to report things that say the president is getting paid by Russia, he has business interests in Russia. There is no evidence of this. And for the first time, what we now have is a thorough investigation taking place outside of the public sphere, which is the way it should be done, so that we can come to the same conclusion which the president already knows, there's nothing there to see.
You going back to the White House? There's a report tonight that you are.
Now,
the president wants you to come back.
Look, don't believe the mainstream media. You wouldn't believe this. Everything they say isn't true.
I do believe that there's some chaos going on in the White House. I've experienced it firsthand in the last couple of days. You call over there and it's not exactly clear what's going on. The president apparently is expressing displeasure about his aides. I think that's real. Would you consider going back?
Look, I've got a great life. I got to be honest with you. But, of course, if the President of the United States were to call me, and he has not, to be clear, and say, Corey, I'd like you to come serve your country in a different capacity, would I look at that? You bet I would. Now, is that what I want to do? Of course not. I got a great life. I love my life in New Hampshire. I got a great business. I'm doing great. And I think, candidly, I'm going to be more effective for the president working on the outside, making sure that his agenda is getting done from the outside, which is making sure businesses are getting what they need done, making sure members of Congress are being held accountable for the things that they need to do. Hopefully I'll be involved in some elections next year moving forward so that the people who are supporting the president's agenda, if they're up for re-election, are going to be successful, or if they're going to be challenging incumbent Democrats in states where Donald Trump won, maybe I can be involved there.
Where's all the leaking coming from? I mean, you can't, I'm sure some of it's made up. The press hates Trump, I'll concede that. But not all of it's made up. People who are working there are leaking details about what happens inside the White House to the press every day, to the press that hates their boss.
That's exactly right.
Why are they doing that?
Because, look, and I've said this 100 times now, it's worth repeating. There are people who work in that building who don't support the president's agenda or aren't on the president's agenda. And if that's the case, whether you are the chief of staff or you're the person who answers the telephones or anywhere in between, if you don't support this president and his agenda 100% of the time, not only should you not be in that building, you shouldn't be in the government.
You think the chief of staff supports his agenda?
I do think so. I do think so. I think Reince is there.
Who doesn't? Who do you? I mean,
look, I think there are probably people who work in that building, and I also mean throughout parts of the government, that candidly were not part of the president's team as he ran for office, right, that did not support his campaign, didn't take his campaign seriously. And look, we've seen this with other individuals who wanted to become part of the administration in different capacities, and I think at the State Department is a great example, right? We saw the person who wanted to be the number 2 person at the State Department, Elliot Abram, who had, been very aggressive at calling the president out, saying he was unfit to be a candidate, unfit to the presidency, but then they try and get their ways back into the government. This is what happens because people are so consumed with their own power that they're more concerned about themselves than they are the agenda of the country. This president was elected to change Washington. The only way to do that is to have a full team and a full complement around you that is working every day for that agenda. And if anybody is leaking from the White House, and leaks are a fact and it happens every day, those people shouldn't be there anymore.
Last question. Steve Bannon, whatever you think of Steve Bannon, seemed like one of the guys who understood why the president got elected, understood the agenda that he articulated during the campaign. What happened to him?
Well, Steve's still very much involved, and you have to remember what Steve's role is. As a chief strategist of the White House, it's looking at the big picture and getting big picture things done. And if you look at the health care bill, which has gone through the House now, is going to move to the Senate, that's part of the Trump agenda that he ran on, the repeal and replace of Obamacare. You look at the tax bill, which has been put forth, the largest tax cut in the history of our country. That was part of the Trump agenda. That's where things are.
But where's immigration? I mean, I watched the campaign pretty closely, and he ran on immigration. I mean,
and building a wall. Tucker, you got to build a wall.
Well, where is that?
Look, it has to happen. What we know is in the first budget that the president basically inherited the first budget from the previous administration. The money wasn't in there. It has to be in the next budget because that is the pledge that he has made, and he said it time and time again, and it will be there. I know this president. He's a man of his word. He's a man who keeps his promises. He's going to build the wall on the southern border. Mexico's going to pay for it. But you're going to get Congress to get this done. This is a no-brainer. It has to get done in the first 2 years. That wall is going to get built.
Corey Lewandowski, thanks very much.
Thank you.